Stoicism, the art of living in peace, under any circumstances. Peace is not a distant place one arrives at after crossing all the storm. It is the silent harbor one builds within oneself, even when the sea roars. Many live believing that they can only rest when life finally decides to be kind. But as Seneca reminded us, the doctor does not only choose healthy patient, his art flourishes in the midst of disease. Similarly, true peace is not born from the absence of problem, but from the ability to breathe deeply while the chaos is still present. Marcus Aurelius knew that the world would not bow to his calm. Governing an empire and facing external and internal battle, he understood that serenity is like a flame protected by one's hand. If we don't guard it, the inevitable wind will extinguish it. Cultivating this flame requires daily attention, like someone tuning an instrument so that it can produce music even when everything around it sounds like noise. The pain of waiting for the perfect life is silent but corrosive. It is like standing on the bank waiting for the river to calm down to cross, without realizing that crossing is only learned within the current. Every day that we postpone this courage, we reinforce the belief that peace is a prize someone will give us, and not a skill we can learn. Imagine an anchor at the bottom of the sea. No matter if there are high waves or violent storms above, it remains fixed, holding the ship. A mind trained in the Stoic art of living in peace works the same way. Tied to the principles it has chosen, it does not get lost to the whims of the wind. The sea does not stop. Tides do not ask for permission. But he who holds the rudder with firmness gets through any scenario without breaking. This is the essence that spans centuries and reaches us. There is no promise of calm. There is the power to keep the heart calm, even when the world insists on testing us. And it is from this point, this meeting of strength and serenity, that the art of living in peace under any circumstances begin. The myth of perfect peace. Perfect peace, that polished image that many carry in their minds, is a seductive myth. It promises that one day everything will be stable, that the pieces will fit together, that the external world will finally adjust to our internal rhythm. But waiting for that day is like waiting for the sea to stop moving before learning to sail. The Stoics knew that the sea never ceased, that the waves change shape, but they never ceased to exist. For this reason, they trained serenity in the small ripples before the storm came. Most people believe that calm is only possible when everything around them is resolved, but living this way is to condemn oneself to chronic restlessness, because there will always be something pending, someone dissatisfied, a piece of news that is bothersome. What is lost in this waiting is the opportunity to cultivate an active calm, not the one that anesthetizes, but the one that allows us to see clearly even in the midst of confusion. Seneca wrote that he who waits for perfect tranquility lives trapped in tomorrow without actually touching today. Practicing this serenity begins in the ordinary, in the bus delay, in the queue that drags on, in the cutting comment from someone who does not know our story. These are training grounds, not threat. By facing them with press, we are tuning the instrument so that when the dissonant symphony of life intensifies, we can play our music without getting lost. The myth of perfect peace robs us of our autonomy. It makes us hand over our calm to chance, hoping it will be generous. But the Stoic chooses another path, to build a firm ground within oneself where no external change can impose its climate. Not because he ignores reality, but because he refuses to be shaped by it. It is at this point that peace ceases to be a distant idea and becomes a daily, possible, concrete, and deeply liberating practice. Separate what depends on you from what doesn't. Separating what depends on us from what does not is like drawing within the mind an invisible but insurmountable border. Epictetus said that a large part of suffering is born from trying to control what is beyond our reach and neglecting what is in our hand. It's like trying to change the wind with the force of your arms, while the rudder, which we could hold, remains loose. This distinction is not a distant intellectual exercise, but a living practice. It is in recognizing that someone's mood, the instability of the economy, or the storms of fate do not respond to our order, but what we think about it, the way we choose to act, and the story we tell ourselves, that is under our control. Peace, then, ceases to be a hostage to the world and becomes the fruit of mental discipline. Imagine a gate at the entrance to your mind. To what does not depend on you, close it without hesitation, like someone protecting their home from a cold draft that threatens to put out the fire. To what is yours, open and work with attention, because it is there that the internal fortress is built. This act, repeated day after day, is what transforms serenity into a habit, and habit into nature. The world will continue to try to cross that gate with urgent news, veiled offenses, unexpected events that seem personal. But a trained spirit knows that it is not about blocking life, but about choosing what to allow in. And in this selective silence, one discovers that true freedom is not in absolute control, but in the conscious choice of where to place one's own heart. The daily training of the mind. The daily training of the mind is like sharpening a blade. It is not done all at once, nor under pressure, but in the patient repetition of simple gestures. It is in this silent work that the strength to respond and not react is built. To respond is to choose. To react is to be swept away. The difference between a life guided by serenity and one by impulse resides in this interval. Seneca suggested reviewing the day before going to sleep, not as one who blames oneself, but as one who cleans away the dust before it accumulates. This ritual is a nocturnal mirror. In it we see our words, decisions, and silences, and we can choose what to keep and what to transform. It is a way of untying knots before they become a chain. The Stoic practice does not require isolation, but attention. Small exercises, such as noticing your breath when you hear a provocation or pausing before responding to a criticism, are bricks in the construction of a firm mind. It is not about repressing emotions, but about recognizing the exact instant they try to take the rudder and, with gentleness, returning it to the hands of reason. Over time, this training creates a kind of invisible muscle. The world can shake and you still feel the impact, but you don't lose your balance. It's like walking down a narrow corridor during a storm. With every conscious step, the rain loses the power to push you off your path. And in the constancy of this movement, peace ceases to be an occasional visitor and comes to live within you. Silent courage, not shaken. The silent courage of not being shaken is a paradox. On the outside, it may seem like passivity. On the inside, it is a firmness that does not allow itself to be shaped by the noise of others. It is refusing war when the battle has been chosen by someone else, not by you. Resisting external pressure does not mean building walls, but cultivating roots so deep that the storm only shakes the leaf. Marcus Aurelius described this strength as the bamboo that bends but does not break. He knew that inflexible hardness breaks easily, while malleability preserves what is essential. This malleability is not submission, it is strategy. It is knowing how to yield where it doesn't matter. Preserve what does matter. Keeping your heart open while the world tries to close it is an act of serene rebellion. It is choosing not to respond to an offense with an offense, not because you lack a response, but because you will not engage in that game. There is power in not taking the bait. There is dignity in not allowing yourself to be dragged away. This courage does not need witness. It is revealed in the silence of one who listens without getting lost, in the gaze that observes without judging, in the gesture that moves forward while the confusion unravels on its own. And when the day ends, you realize that you did not defeat others, you defeated yourself, and that is enough. Returning to the metaphor of the anchor is returning to the essence. Life will continue to bring storm, and it is not a calm sea that guarantees the crossing, but the firmness with which you hold the bottom. Peace, in this sense, is not fragile, like a crystal that breaks lightest impulse. It is like a submerged stone that remains, even when the surface is agitated in fury. Seneca reminds us that it is not the weight that sinks us, but the way we carry it. A poorly positioned burden becomes unbearable. Adjusted to the body, it can be carried for long distance. The same goes for our pains and pressures. It is not about removing them at all costs, but about repositioning them in the spirit so that they do not prevent us from walking. Marcus Aurelius began each day aware that the world would bring provocation, injustices, and frustration. But he reminded himself that tranquility is an active act, not a passive waiting. It's like protecting a flame with your hands, knowing that the wind will come. It's not about avoiding the wind, it's inevitable, but about choosing how to lean so that the light remains lit. And when, in the end, silence returns and the sea calms down for a few instants, you understand. True peace was not granted by the world, but built within you, stone by stone, until it became unshakable. The myth of perfect peace is a silent trap. Many imagine it as a distant horizon, a day without clouds where nothing else threatens stability. But waiting for that right moment is to condemn oneself to never finding. Life, with its own rhythm, does not wait for us to be ready to bring us challenge. It blows winds on clear days and brings calms on dark nights. Peace is not born when the world decides to be kind. It is born when even in discomfort. We learn to breathe without haste. The Stoics did not see serenity as a prize reserved for those who win great battles, but as a daily exercise, repeated until it becomes nature. Seneca spoke about the importance of dealing well even with small adversity, because they are the ones that, when accumulate, build the weight of the big one. It is in the unexpected delay, in the cutting comment, in the sudden change of plan, that the internal muscle of calm is trained. Perfect peace is not the absence of noise, but the ability not to be confused by it. It's like being at the bottom of a lake while the surface is agitated by the wind, feeling the movement up there, but remaining still, rooted. He who waits for the wind to stop before diving will never know the depth. And perhaps the hardest lesson is this: life does not promise to give us peace, but it always offers us the chance to cultivate it. And that chance begins, invariably, now. Separating what depends on us from what does not is an act of liberation. Epictetus said that we suffer not from what happens, but from the way we judge what happened. There are things that are in our hands, such as what we choose to think, say, and do. There are others that belong to the world, and trying to control them is like trying to hold the wind. Still, how many times do we wake up and already hand over our peace to what we cannot change? When we do not make this distinction, the mind becomes an open field, vulnerable to every shadow that passes. Small news, others' opinions, banal, unforeseen event, everything finds space to dictate the tone of the day. But when we close the mental door to what is beyond our reach, something changes. Our attention turns to what is our duty: to act with clarity, to speak with honesty, to respond with calm. Discipline in judgment is the basis of this tranquility. It is not ignoring reality, but putting it in its proper place. The world does not have to be under control for you to be. It's like walking in heavy rain. You can't stop it from falling, but you can choose whether walking will be a torment or a serene act. True peace, then, is a consequence of an internal filter. It is the daily choice to nurture what builds and let go of what corrodes. It is the silent art of holding firm to what is yours and letting what was never yours flow.